If not, I'm going to have to download my broadcast from Facebook and then just drop it over on YouTube a little bit later today. Because I don't want to keep playing around, guys. It's so much happening in our world, both good and horrific. As the writer once said, it is the best of times and the worst of times at the same time. Um, yes. So, Women's History Month, we saw some history being made. Most of you, if you follow me, you know that we did a watching Black people watching the Academy Awards live. I did not watch the show. Okay, great. I did not watch the show. I watched snippets of the show through YouTube after it was being broadcast. What I did do is I watched the reporting live. I watched the reporting in real time. And then I went to the platform Threads and listened and read what Black people had to say about the Academy Awards in real time because I'm interested in what we have going on. I'm interested in what we have going on, and I'm interested in what we have to say about what is happening. So you will see on my page, you'll see a picture of a Barbie sipping her with her mug, and it says, Black people watching the Oscars. Go there because the conversations were great. The conversations were rich. The conversations were funny and descriptive and all of those good things. So check that out when you have a moment. What else is happening in our world? Well, we know that unfortunately, when people say the word abortion, they don't tend to think about adult lives. They don't tend to think about young people's lives, people's who are living. They don't use that word. But that's the word that has been resonating in my mind when I think about our young people that are being sent out into a unnecessary, unpopular, unplanned war. So this past week, I was looking at some of the images that have come out of the people, of the soldiers that have been lost to us as a country in response to them being sent out. The latest one was the refueling accident or the refueling um, destruction that happened as they were trying to refuel a plane. And then I read and found out that there were no ejective seats on the plane, and there were no parachutes on the plane that they were sent in to go do refueling. I want you guys to understand the insanity of that. You literally sent them into a plane with a plane that had no way for them to exit should anything wrong happen. They couldn't eject themselves. They didn't have any parachute materials. So you literally sent them on a suicide mission. This is horrific. Why is that horrific, you might ask me? Well, why are we sending them in planes where there is no possible way of escape? But we had Kristi Noem buying planes that had beds and bedrooms on them. I couldn't wrap my head around that. Um, and so as one person said, if you are in the military right now, do what you need to do in order to not follow unlawful orders. Because these people do not care. They don't care. You can't tell me that you care about young people. You can't tell me that you care about the soldiers who are signing up and you let them go in a plane that has no way to eject in the case of an emergency and no parachutes, even if they were able to eject themselves. That is for me, it's like I can't wrap my head around why our country would do that to our young people. I can't wrap my head around that. So I'm still processing that. And then, of course, we had the Oscars last night, the honoring of a show that has been nominated 16 times, the most nominated movie in Academy Award history. And as I was up in my insomniac self last night, I decided that they would receive a proclamation. And I'm trying to find it. And I'm going to read this proclamation that you all should definitely hear. It's on Black Table Talk, and you can feel free to share it. And it reads, a resolution declaring March 16th as Sinners Coogler Jordan Lindo Musaku Katon Day. Whereas Ryan Coogler has established himself as a visionary director, writer, and producer, consistently bringing powerful, culturally significant stories to the global screen, with Sinners serving as a tribute to family legacy and history. And whereas the visionary filmmaker Ryan Coogler has once again demonstrated his unparalleled ability to weave complex themes of heritage, resilience, and cultural identity into the fabric of American cinema. And whereas the brilliant producer Zenzi Kugler has served as the creative backbone and strategic architect of this production, earning her first Academy Award nomination for Best Picture and a Golden Globe for cinematic and box office achievement. And whereas the exceptional actor Michael B. Jordan has delivered a masterclass in performance through his dual portrayal of the twin brothers Smoke and Stack, a feat that earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor at the Academy Awards. And whereas Michael B. Jordan, a commanding force in modern cinema, has delivered an exceptional performance demonstrating outstanding dedication and artistic growth in his collaborations with Coogler. And whereas Delroy Lindo, a legendary actor of unmatched talent, has provided a profound and grounded performance, adding immense depth to the cinematic landscape of Sinners. The legendary Delroy Lindo has brought profound depth and gravity to his scenes, garnering critical acclaim and a Best Supporting Actor win at the NAACP Image Awards for his performance in this historic production. And whereas the versatile and profound Wunmi Mosaku has delivered a transformative performance as Annie, the soulful hoodoo conjurer and spiritual anchor of the film, earning the BAFTA Award for Actress in a Supporting Role and a nomination for the Academy Award. And whereas the film Sinners has achieved historic acclaim, recognized for its brilliant storytelling, technical artistry, and cultural impact, elevating the standard of filmmaking itself. And whereas the multi-hyphenate Miles Caton has emerged as a generational breakout star in his feature film debut as Sammy Preacher Boy Moore, delivering a performance of such raw presence and musical brilliance that it earned him the Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Young Performer. And whereas their collaborative masterpiece Sinners has captivated global audiences, making Academy Awards history with a record-breaking 16 nominations and redefining the Southern Gothic genre, though this is genre bending, its bold exploration of the Mississippi Delta soul. And whereas this collective represents a fellowship of excellence whose work transcends traditional entertainment to spark vital conversations on race, history, artistic partnership, bringing excellence and pride to the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved, because we only listening to us on this, okay? Be it resolved that Black Table Talk and the Melanated Delegation does hereby declare March 16th as Centers Kugler Jordan Lindo Masaku Caton Day worldwide, and urges all human citizens to join in recognizing and celebrating the profound contributions of these artists to the world of film. Their extraordinary contributions to the arts and their commitment to elevating the brilliance of the human spirit through film will continue to echo through the ages with unmatched clarity in honor of Black history, Black present, and Black futures, passed and adopted the 16th day of March. Signed, Black Table Talk. And if you agree with that resolution, you can type amen or I say into the comments, because whether the world agrees with us or not, it is their day and we celebrate their achievements and their accomplishments and all of the actors that were recognized last night for their accomplishments. Now, I do have some reading for us to do. So, we are reading today from Supreme Actresses. I'm bringing her back. All right, we got two that we're going to look at today. Two of them. The first one being one of my favorite actresses in terms of her versatility, her presence, her choices in roles that she takes on. I feel like she's always been very conscientious of the images that she leaves us with cinematically, and that is Angela. 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 I love this image. Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett. All right. So let's take a look at some of her film, television, and awards. Film career, television, and awards. Films: Boys in the Hood, Malcolm X, What's Love Got to Do with It, Waiting to Exhale, Black Panther, Mission Impossible 7. Television: The Jacksons, An American Dream, ER, Betty and Coretta, American Horror Story 911. Awards: 1994 Golden Globe, Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical for What's Love Got to Do with It. Activist, director, and producer Angela Bassett is one of her generation's most talented actresses. Bassett, who received her Master's of Fine Arts degree from the Yale School of Drama, began her film career with small roles in the hit comedy Kindergarten Cop and the critically acclaimed Boys in the Hood film, along with Malcolm X. These early performances led to her tour de force portrayal of Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do with It, which earned Bassett an Academy Award nomination and a Golden Globe win. Since then, the 7-time Emmy nominee, 5 of which are for acting, has conquered both the big and small screens. On television, Bassett has delivered powerhouse performances on hit shows like Alias, ER, and American Horror Story, for which she earned 2 Emmy nominations. She is currently starring on the hit Fox Network series 911, where she also serves as executive producer. And how can we forget her starring roles in not one, not two, but 3 blockbusters: Black Panther, Mission Impossible, Fallout, and Avengers Endgame. The second person I want to highlight, and I feel like she's gotten a lot of criticism, but I think she needs her flowers. We need to give her her flowers as well. And that is Monique. Monique is a Baltimorean uh, from this area, and I don't think I've run across, and there she is. I don't think I've run across anyone that I've talked to who's a true native Baltimorean, I don't think I've run across anybody who's had anything bad to say about Monique in this region. And to me, that speaks a lot to um, what you've done. That speaks a lot to the groundwork that you have put into an area that people who know you before you got really, really big um, can really kind of sort of speak to your beginnings. So let's look at Monique's roles in film, television, and her awards. In film, she has played in Baby Boy, Soul Plane, Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. I think that's probably, I think for me, one of her funniest roles. Precious, which I did not see because that movie in and of itself is just, I can't. I don't do trauma films well. Almost Christmas, really loved her in that. Television, Moesha, Good Fences, The Parkers, Flavor of Love, Girls Charm School, and Bessie. Awards: 2010 Academy Award, Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role for Precious. 2010 BAFTA Award, Best Supporting Actress for Precious. And 2010 Golden Globe, Best Performance by an Actress for Precious. So in 2010, okay, she swept all the awards for Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role. She swept those particular awards. In 2010, the film Precious, directed by Lee Daniels, earned her 6 Academy nominations, including Best Actress for newcomer Gabourey Sidibe and Best Supporting Actress for Monique. She took the stage at Hollywood's Kodak Theater and accepted the Best Supporting Actress Oscar. She wore this blue floor-length gown with gardenias in her hair as an homage to Hattie McDaniel, who 60 years before became the first Black person to win an Academy Award. She won every major acting honor that year. In other words, don't play with Monique. Don't play with your girl. Don't act like she's not good at what she does. Now, people may not like the way that she tells the truth, but Monique tells the truth on things. Sometimes people don't like the tone in which something is delivered to them, but it doesn't stop it from being the truth. And we know that to be true because some of the things that she was saying about Hollywood and about fairness of pay and the inequities. Taraji P. Henson came right behind her a few years later and said the exact same thing, and she was received for the same message that Monique was trying to give people. She was received. So shout out to Monique. We're going to give her her flowers. We give her her flowers over here. And shout out to her for being vocal about what she saw happening in the world of Hollywood with unequal pay and holding people's feet to the fire and saying, pay us, pay us. Yeah, don't beat around the bush, pay us. Viola Davis also came out and said something similar. She was received. Okay, pay us. There's a conversation happening right now on social media with someone I follow. I don't know her personally. Um, we've never conversed, but there's a similar argument happening, acting as if Black women should not be paid for their labor, that they shouldn't be paid for their consulting, that they shouldn't be paid for educating people. And it's very weird. It's giving slave vibes, okay? It's giving slavery. Don't, please, don't do that. Black women deserve to be paid. The data already shows that our demographic are the most educated right now in this country. So what are we talking about? Unless we're devaluing education altogether and we're saying that people who are educated don't deserve to be paid for their labor. And I hope we aren't saying that because none of us are going to go for that. I mean, it just is what it is. Now, I want to get to the main reading, and that is Without Fear. Black women and the making of human rights. How have Black women been in this movement for human rights, not just for Black people's rights, as is often mistaken, but human rights? So let's talk about it. Let's dive in. I'm reading you an excerpt. I want to go longer than I can, but I cannot. So I'm going to stop where I can, and then we're going to have some talk back today. Okay. During the 19th century, U.S. leaders presented an image of strength to the world as they worked to build their standing as a great power on the international stage. Now, you can just take that one sentence right there and plug it into 2026, because I feel like that's where we are again. U.S. leaders presenting an image of strength to the world, working to build their standing as a great power on the international stage. And unfortunately, we have someone in office right now that is stripping all of that. Although the Civil War had devastating consequences on all aspects of human life, their messages of unity, hope, and healing took center stage. Yet it was clear to many that the deep divisions that led to the war remained largely fixed in place. Southerners resisted Black political progress with all their might, still happening, as evidenced by the violence employed to bring a swift end to Reconstruction. Violence employed to bring a swift end to Reconstruction or Black people's rights. And let me plug this here as a warning. When you see people standing in the state capitol and they're filming in Virginia, white citizenry going down the line and collecting free ammunition that's being passed out to citizens. They were passing it out to the old, they were passing the free ammunition out to children, and nobody saw a problem with it. They were not checking people's IDs. They were not doing background checks. They were not seeing if they were passing out ammunition to somebody who had mental health problems, who might not have been able to access ammunition. No, they were standing in the Virginia Capitol with boxes upon boxes of free magazines and ammunition, and they were passing it out on video. And then they posted it online. And the first thing I said is, we need somebody doing facial recognition software with that video so we can capture identities, because if anything goes down in Virginia with these elections that are getting ready to happen April 21st, there's a vote coming for redistricting in Virginia. I don't think that's a coincidence that before this redistricting happens, you have people down at the Capitol passing out free ammunition to white citizens. Let's put two and two together, because the math is mathing, okay? Based on American history, the math there is actually mathing. Southerners resisted Black political progress with all their might, including by the violence employed to bring a swift end to Reconstruction, to bring a swift end to Black people gaining political power, to being enfranchised, to having Black men in political leadership. The writer goes on to say here, the pattern of white mob violence that Black activists denounced in the decades prior had stemmed from the same impulse that brought an end to Reconstruction: white pseudo-supremacy. To counter it, Black women did not hesitate to point to the myriad hypocrisies at the center of the nation's mistreatment of Black people. We weren't just in the kitchen, we were on the mic. Exactly. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And my personal philosophy is live ready. Building on the tradition of Black women thinkers since the 18th century, the generation of Black women activists who had come of age during the era of enslavement increasingly framed their demands for rights and freedom through the lens of universal rights. Not just Black rights, universal rights. While they never strayed far from a call for citizenship rights, these leaders recognized that the egregious treatment of people of African descent represented a breach of universal principles that were foundational to their concept of morality. They noted the failure of U.S. leaders to protect Black people, which undermined the stated values of the Constitution. And I don't care how many times you have to call out the nation that you live in, we should call it out. You say that this is your document. You say that this is the document that you go by, but you're not going by it. And every time we should show them that the values that you claim to abide by, you don't abide by. It positioned this lack of protection as a failure to acknowledge the rights shared by all simply because they are part of the human species. Another personal philosophy of mine. If you come into my world, you come into my space, you're going to start with respect for the human species, humankind. Do we have our differences? Do we have our idiosyncrasies? Do we have our personal preferences? Yes, we have all of that. But we start first with valuing fellow human beings. If you don't know how to value people simply because they are a human being, this is probably not the space or the place for you. Because that's where we start. That's fundamental and that's foundational. Black churches provided one significant avenue for Black women to demand human rights during this period. Hence, however you may feel about the Black church, and some feelings are definitely valid, let me say that. However you may feel about the D9, it is an avenue for Black empowerment. However you may feel about the NAACP, the Urban League, and all of our other civic organizations, they are avenues for Black empowerment. However you may feel about the HBCU system, it is an avenue for Black empowerment. So it is not lost on me that all of our institutions are being either systematically attacked directly or undermined indirectly by Kuntisha and Kuntavious. Okay? That is systematic. They know the power of institutions. That's why they work so hard to maintain theirs. They know the power of institutions. They know the power of institutionalizing your legacies and your histories. That's why they want our museums to bow and our HBCUs to bow and our D9 organizations to be dismantled. I'm not a D9 member, but I have sense enough to know that. Okay? So let's not act like we don't know what time it is. And if you don't know what time it is, I hope by the end of this broadcast you do. Such was the case for African American missionary Amanda Berry Smith. Born in 1837 in Long Green, Maryland, Smith was the daughter of enslaved African Americans. Her father, Samuel Berry, who had purchased his own freedom by selling brooms, mats, fruit, vegetables, and every other thing, went on to purchase Smith's freedom and the freedom of her mother, Miriam Berry. So sometimes in the historical record, when you see people say, well, Black people own slaves, depending on what was happening, you got to actually look at the context. It could easily be said, oh, I look in the record and I see Samuel Berry, he's a Black man, and he owns two people. Well, he was buying his wife and his daughter. So again, let's not be obtuse when we hear some of these things, and let's actually dig a little bit deeper into what the context is. In 1840, the family moved to York County, Pennsylvania, Although she did not receive much formal schooling, Smith learned how to read and write from her parents. Yeah, because I know people think homeschooling is this new thing that just white Americans are doing. But before the proliferation and the popularization of homeschooling, Black people were already homeschooling their children because that was who could teach them. So we're going to talk about homeschooling. Go back to the root. Children out of enslavement being taught by their parents because there was no school for them. You either learned it from your parents or you didn't learn it. She married James Henry Smith, a deacon in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. After her husband died in 1869, Smith began attending religious revivals. Her life was forever changed when she heard a sermon by Reverend John Inksip of the Green Street Methodist Church and felt called to God's service. Shortly thereafter, she began preaching at revival meetings across the city. Smith drew upon the teachings of the Bible to make a case for the expanded rights and opportunities of Black people and other marginalized groups. So that debunks the fact that people keep saying that Black people didn't have any idea of what they were doing and Black people were just bamboozled into just believing anything. No, they used the teachings of the Bible to expand rights and opportunities for Black people and other marginalized groups. Yeah, just let that sink in. In 1896, Smith called on attendees at the 7th Street Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia to come down from your elevated position, humble yourselves, and place yourselves on an equal footing with others. Because if you study the life of Jesus, Jesus was not doing hierarchy. For Smith, any expression of Christianity without a commitment to racial equality was hollow. That is not 1960s gospel. That is 1869 gospel. Christianity, in Smith's perspective, provided a venue from which to advance a broader goal of liberation and equality. Liberation theology gets crystallized in James Cone, but liberation theology was before him. Okay, before him. As an evangelist, she looked to the Bible for framing her understanding of universal rights. This is a point Smith makes clear in her autobiography when she explains the significance of Galatians 3 and 28 in her conversion process. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. That oneness, that universality is what she focused in on. I never understood that text before, she admitted, but now the Holy Spirit made it clear to me. Smith's travel abroad fundamentally shaped her religious views, opening her eyes to the global dimension of racial justice. In 1878, she traveled to Great Britain to lead religious revivals on what she initially thought would be a short visit. But it blossomed into her spending 12 years abroad. As a missionary during these years, she was widespread in her travels, including to India and Liberia. While her primary focus was spreading her ideas to various communities across the globe, her experiences in India and Liberia proved critical for expanding her ideas. Black self-sufficiency was one of the core themes of her 1893 autobiography, published 3 years after she returned to the United States. Echoing the abolitionist Maria W. Stewart, who in 1831 began to argue that if no one will promote or respect us, let us promote and respect ourselves. I'm sorry, who said that? A Black woman? If no one will promote or respect us, Let us promote and respect ourselves, hence the resolution for today. If no one will promote or respect us, let us promote and respect ourselves. Smith emphasized the need for people of African descent to devise strategies for addressing the lingering effects of enslavement and colonialism. And here's the thing: as long as we are in this world, as long as we are in this physical plane, as long as the spirit of the colonizer exists, you will always have a generation that has to address strategically the lingering effects of enslavement and colonialism. This is why I can appreciate Coretta Scott King telling us that freedom has to be won in every generation. It lets us know that it's an ongoing process. You don't just stop. But what you what you do is you equip, strengthen, teach, empower the next generation to take the baton. So we have to ask ourselves as adults, especially Gen X and farther back, have we done a good job of preparing, equipping, supporting, teaching, undergirding the next generation to take the baton so that they go farther than we went? I can tell you right now that as a Gen X, I feel as though our rights are being rolled back, some of that because there's some gaps. There's some gaps in understanding. There's some gaps in empowerment. There's some gaps in undergirding. But guess what? I see millennials doing the work of closing some of the gaps. Because let me tell you, Gen A, Gen B, and Gen Z are not having it. And they have the right to have that fervency that we are not going back. We are not going back. You can try it, you can try the tactics, but we are not going back. These things included collective action and forging international alliances. Smith's desire to build transnational networks reflected her sense of global belonging. And I understand, as a foundational Black American, there are a lot of us who have been burned by some of the things that have happened with the global community. There have been some of us who've been disrespected by people in the global community. But I'm going to continue to say, find your people, because that is not everybody. You have to be discerning in your collaboration and in your effort to build transnational networks. But we belong to the global. That doesn't mean that we should give up our specific ways of life, our specific cultural markers. As people who are descendants of the enslaved, I always say that we are the Africa in America, because through the shadow process, if you look at most of us when it comes to our genetic data, we don't just come from one country in Africa. Okay? We don't. Some of us have Nigerian, Ghanaian, uh, Sudanese, South American, Congolese, Bantu. You start looking at your genetic markers and you say, what happened here? Well, foundational Black Americans become the true Africa in America, not one country, but we began to fulfill that statement that out of many, one was created. Out of many, one was created. And I like to say it this way, because if you were breeding us, you were not trying to get the weakest to breed with the weakest. No, you were not. You were breeding the best with the best, 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 with the best. So you get a Michael B. Jordan because you were breeding with the best. Hmm. Last paragraph, and I'm going to stop here. The Black Women's Club movement, which emerged during the late 19th century, began to build on these sentiments. Led primarily by formally educated middle-class Black women, the movement was a response to the violence and oppression of Black people that they were enduring during the nadir of race relations. As the Supreme Court handed down Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896, that decision, which upheld the doctrine of separate but equal institutions for Black and white people, African American women were in the process of organizing associations to address the social and political needs of Black people. So it's not just the 92%. This is our legacy, that when we see Black people being harmed, when we see Black people being dehumanized, it is Black women that have stepped up and said, we've got to establish these organizations and push back on this narrative about who we are in the world. Largely excluded from the public arena, Black women found spaces in their voluntary associations to advocate for change and fill the gaps where the federal government failed to provide aid. And let me tell you something about this diabolical regime. Because they know that Black women have always been the ones to fill the gap, they attacked Black women's economy first. That wasn't happenstance. They started with Black women for a reason. Why? Because historically, where the federal government failed to provide aid, Black women stepped up to fill in the gaps. So I attack your gap fillers first. And now we're hearing the reports about Black male job loss, but it started with Black women. Black club women provided an array of resources, including, here's what Black women were organizing when they saw that the federal government was pulling back aid and support. Homes for the elderly, like Harriet Tubman, child care, and food for the poor. They fought for racial uplift and political rights, emphasizing racial pride and the value of education. While these ideals were at the core of the Black Women's Club movement, they were by no means the women's only focus. Much like earlier activists and intellectuals, African American club women of the late 19th century promoted an expansive vision of freedom that reflected their dual commitment to securing civil and human rights. So before the D9, let me re-emphasize that. So before D9, it was the Black Women's Club movement. This included women from all walks of life, but it was primarily led by educated, middle-class Black women, the same women who are now being attacked and moved out of their jobs. So when you ask yourself, what can I be doing as an educated Black woman in this moment in time? What can I be doing when I see the erosion happening, the purposeful pulling back of aid? What can I be doing? Mutual aid, childcare, homes for the elderly, making sure that our people don't fall through the cracks. Just think about that. And I'm going to stop here because I do want to leave some time for our talk back. And Pastor Ben, you have a camera here today. We're definitely going to go past 11 o'clock. So I want to thank you all for watching, tuning in, and listening. Yes, we have some things happening in our community right now. We have some friction going on. But one thing that I do know is that even just like these women we've been looking at today, Black people have not needed a single leader per se to guide us. We're not sheep without a shepherd. We've always looked around, looked at our circumstance, looked at our situation, saw that the math wasn't mathing, and recalibrated. Sometimes we've done it in groups. Sometimes we've done it as a collective consciousness, like the Great Migration. Nobody had a leader. People looked around, saw that we were being attacked, and realized this is not safe for my family. Let me get up and go. And as they got up and went, they looked to the left and they looked to the right and they saw other families doing the same thing. So don't get stuck on, see, this is why we can't. No, this is why we can. This is why we can. We can get up and move. We can get up and mobilize. We can get up and form groups and organizations that help us to protect Black life in this country. We've been doing it for centuries now. So I encourage you to get back to the roadmap. Get back to the roadmap. If you see something that needs doing, think about how you can organize it, form it, look around you, see who might be willing to partner with you. And if no one's willing to partner with you, it's okay to begin it anyway, because that's what we do. We do what needs to be done. All right. So I want to thank you for listening. I'm going to bring in my talkback guest today. And wishing safety for those of you who are in the path of this storm today that's coming through. I know we've had a little bit of it last night, and we might get some more bands of it. But right now, our internet is holding pretty steady. If you are watching by YouTube, you will probably hear this conversation. You should be able to hear it, but we are on the other platform. So if you want to see us visually speaking, you can go to Facebook or you can remain on the YouTube platform. Good morning.
Morning. You covered a lot this morning.
I did.
Covered a lot. There is a that I definitely want to speak on. The views. But here's the thing, they always throw out lies to tell you that they're protecting you. How do you protect somebody's right when you're actually stepping on them?
Mm-hmm. The HBCUs, yes.
You're trying to take away their freedom of expression.
Mm-hmm.
How does that protect them? And HBCUs were not supposed to be getting anything that was actually set aside for them.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been getting that anyway. So what you talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it's one thing if you were doing completely and totally right by them. Mm-hmm. Then you might have a point or might have a case, but you haven't been. So what you talking about? See, push that stuff to the side because that's foolishness.
Yeah, and that
I'm
is
glad that the students.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying, and that is a concern because you have an administration at Howard that is not pushing back on that. You see, they implemented a policy that clearly goes against students' rights at the behest of the regime. And so a part of our issue right now is making sure that there are people in place that will hold the line for Black children's rights. And this is what I've been telling parents, because I do advise students when it comes to colleges. I've been telling parents, make sure, even if your child chooses to go to HBCU, make sure they're going to an HBCU where the person in charge is actually going to stand up against this regime and not fold to it. Because it doesn't do me good to send my child to a space where the administration is going to fold anyway to the regime.
Right.
And it appears as if my video is going off.
Let's talk about it. All
right, so let me restart my live over on Facebook. Go live. All right, we are back on Facebook. This is part 2. This is our talk back. And I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. This is Daring Dialogues, Black Table Talk, Women's History Edition. We've been meeting on Mondays at 10 a.m. And we are now in the conversation. We're in the talk back, and we are sharing about HBCUs and the recent decision by Howard University to create a policy where students either have to stand or stay in the locker room. And it's particularly for student athletes and their desire to show their disapproval of standing for the anthem. And that particular thing of not standing for the anthem is centered around bringing awareness to police brutality and police injustice, really launched by Colin Kaepernick. And so we have been talking about the fact that it doesn't just do us good to send our children to HBCUs if the leadership is then going to turn around and fold to the demands of the current regime. And I'm going to bring you on Meta. Let's see. Meta dropped us because we are not talking about their favorite subjects right now. So I understand why Meta dropped us. We're not talking about their favorite subjects. And this is why I don't run a daily show on Meta, because of that. This is why I'm over here on YouTube. At least YouTube lets me speak freely. Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. So as you can see, Meta dropped us right as we were having our talk.
Yeah.
But I also have it where I can add you to YouTube. So if it happens again, we'll just bring you over to YouTube side. But go ahead and finish your thought, because we were talking about the fact that we can't just send our children to an HBCU and then the leadership of that HBCU folds to the regime when we sent our children there to be in a place of safety and protection. So now these students are like, I signed up to go to Howard because this is supposed to be one of our bastions of holding down the fort when it comes to civil rights. Great civil rights leaders have come out of Howard University, Thurgood Marshall being one of them. So now these students are confused, like, what is going on? I thought that you all would be protecting us, not creating policies that violate our right to protest. And you know what we say here is a phrase of mine that I've coined. Racism is spelled Policy. So here we are with a beloved HBCU, a beloved institution, now creating policies that oppress you in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't feel safe at all.
And here's the thing. The whole thing right here. It's ridiculous that they're not pushing back. Because in situations like that, you get the whole black community behind you. See, you got all that, and you're not pushing back. You got the alumni. They're going to be there. They're going to stand strong. But here you are, you're laying down, which leads me to believe that the head must be somebody, just like they did with FAMU, must be somebody that they placed there to infiltrate so they can operate through that person.
You know, it's something to look at. I have not looked at the latest person that is running. I've not looked at the latest person that's running the institution.
You watched the Oscars last night.
So Meta has dropped my video for the second time. So that tells me that this is a topic that the algorithm does not want people to hear. But we're going to keep talking. So let me message Pastor Ben so that he can come on over to, let's have him to come on over to YouTube. Come over to YouTube. All right, and then I'm going to send him all right, and I have sent the link. So we'll give him just a minute here to get in. And I know some things might be happening weather-wise, but dropping my video twice? Dropping the video twice? All right, this is the third time we are going live on Facebook. We'll see if the video holds up this time, but we have transferred our speaker over to our YouTube channel. You can go over there to watch us as well. It's Life Nation KC. So if this video stops again without warning, join us at Life Nation KC for part 2. And hopefully he will see that link and he will hop in. Every day it's something. All right. As we are waiting for Pastor Ben to join us again, I want to reiterate that this is a great time as some of these book bans rage on. This is a book that I picked up online for very little, and it's a children's book, but it was a part of a 4th grade reading class, and I'm sure that this teacher was told that they had to get rid of their reading books, anything connected to DEI. So this book winds up online for sale because some teacher had to remove it out of their book library in their classroom. So this is a great time to go and save some of these books during Women's History Month and add to your own personal library. So I picked this one up online. It's called My Name is Truth, The Life of Sojourner Truth. Those of you who have the space, those of you who have the money, those of you who have the inclination, part of preserving our history is making sure that we intercept the ways in which they try to erase our history. Okay? This is something everybody can do who has at least 10 bucks. You got 10 bucks? I encourage you, go online, start redeeming, start collecting some of these books that are being taken out of the classroom and being resold online. That's what they're doing with those books. They're not just burning them. They're not just putting them in a dumpster. Some of these schools are reselling these books online because they've been moved out of the classroom, and they're going to take that money and reallocate it somewhere else. But we can still go in and grab those books and materials that they are removing. So when you say, what can I do in this? I feel so paralyzed. What can I do in this moment? This is a very simple thing to do. Go redeem, go recapture some of our history that's being removed from classrooms. All right? In case you didn't think about that as an opportunity, as something you could be doing in this hour, go recapture some of our literary works. Boycotting is just one avenue of resistance, by the way. There are other things you can be doing in this moment, like recapturing our history. All right, go ahead, Pastor Ben.
Okay. But as I was saying, uh, I'm led to believe that the person that's over Howard now was placed there for this purpose,
Mm.
just like they did with FAMU.
So let's see. Let's
They're
go
placing
to
people in HBCUs that's essentially bowing. Black people now.
that will subvert uh the goal of the HBCU. I got you. Now it's
Right.
interesting that you
Right.
say that. It's interesting that you say that because listen to this. As of September 1st, 2025, so this is super recent, Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick serves as the interim president of Howard University. So this is happening during an interim when
Mm-hmm.
this policy is being instituted. Having returned to lead the institution following the departure of Ben Vinson III. He previously served as the 17th president from 2014 to 2023, and he's a practicing cancer surgeon at Howard University Hospital. So he is tasked with guiding the university while the board conducts a new search. So you know what this is? This is the same thing that FAMU just recently went through
Mm-hmm.
with a board guiding the decision of the new president with lots of people on the board selecting a president that the majority of the people disagreed with having. I saw, as a FAMU alum, my husband is FAMU alumni. I saw the process that they went through. Lots of people were opposed to it. Alumni was opposed to it. Community members were opposed to it. But there was some people put on the board so that they would vote a certain way so that that person would get elected. Now they're working
Mm-hmm.
through it. They're working through it. They've made it very clear we're not going to tolerate none of this, you know, Sambolisha stuff. But the fact is, she still got in.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are saying, "Hey, we're watching this very closely because we do not want our university and the principles of our university undermined." So now, while Howard University is in this interim moment, now a policy is being added to the student athletes that says you can't kneel anymore. You have to either
Mm-hmm.
stand or stay in the locker room. And I think legally that's probably going to be challenged. Somebody's going to challenge that legally because I think, let me see, I think there's already something around that, but I don't know if it only applies to public school. Let me see, laws around, what do they call it? Compulsory, let me see, compulsory patriotism, maybe. Let me type that in. Laws around compulsory patriotism and the anthem. Let me see. Let me find this. Okay, yeah. In the United States, compulsory displays of patriotism, such as forcing students or citizens to stand for the national anthem or recite the Pledge of Allegiance, are unconstitutional. So, this policy, just instituted by Howard University, by the way, of forcing students to stand, because they're saying, well, you stand or stay in the locker room, you're still putting them out of view of the public. So, there's almost like a shaming in a way to where you'll be in the locker room, nobody will see your kind of protest you're doing. You're going to stand or you're going to stay in the locker room. It is
Hmm.
unconstitutional. The Supreme Court ruled in 1943 that the government cannot force individuals to salute the flag or participate in patriotic rituals, protecting the right to remain seated or silent. Now, the issue could come into where people say, well, this is not the government per se. But let's look at, is Howard University, would Howard University fall under that because they receive maybe government funding?
Hmm.
I mean, that could be the legal way into that. Somebody who's a constitutional law lawyer, you can chime in. All right. So you're taking away their voluntary right to however they want to respond to the anthem. I think that is the key there. You're taking away their voluntary rights. Courts have held that sitting, kneeling, or raising a fist during the national anthem is expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment. So it is expressive conduct that is protected by the First Amendment. Howard University, hint, hint. Public school students cannot be compelled to salute the flag or sing the anthem, and punishing them for peaceful, non disruptive protests like kneeling is illegal. Let's see, exceptions in employment. While the government cannot punish citizens for not standing, here's kind of like the wiggle room. Private employers or private leagues can set their own rules for employees on their property. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out.
I think the key word there is employee.
Hmm.
Students are not employees. Athletes are not employees. The school is not paying them. If
Hmm.
they get paid, it's from NIT, which is not the school.
So I'm looking here. Howard University is a premier private, federally chartered, historically black college and university. So because of that federal chartering, I'm thinking they're gonna run into some legal challenge on it. That's my initial thought, is that they're gonna
Hmm.
run into some legal challenge on that. And hopefully somebody whose parent is an attorney will push back on that. Let's hope, because that is not a good look. I don't care what anybody says, that's not a good look for an HBCU to be saying students cannot kneel. They must stand or they
Hmm.
must stay in the locker room. That is some Kunta Kinte stuff.
I don't know where that came from.
We already know where it came from. We know where it came from because they're trying to edge their way
No,
back.
Yeah, we all
They're
know.
trying to edge their way.
DJ, listen, DJT,
and Colin Kaepernick.
and Colin Kaepernick.
And here's the thing.
That's where it came from.
Here's
It
why
came
it's
from.
insidious. It's insidious because you're already trying to indoctrinate them before they even get out of college and go to a major
Hmm.
league. You're literally trying to indoctrinate them to not do the thing that Colin Kaepernick did. That's insidious. You're trying to shape a whole new generation of student athletes to not do the protest that Colin Kaepernick did. Insidious, diabolical, diabolical. Anything else that you want to reflect on here as we start closing up? Closing.
Okay, black women, and I've often said this, black women are the most powerful beings on this planet. Somebody else said, if you want to see a problem straightened out, give it to a black woman, and I was a white person. Uh, it- Black women rock. I mean, that's it. I mean, they literally birthed nations. You know, so everything came from a black woman. Every human life began with a black woman. And I want to say this because you were speaking on something earlier about seeing a need, getting together, making stuff happen, and the great migration and stuff. We somewhat experienced that after the election,
Mm-hmm.
and we keep
That
into that.
collective
Nobody said a
consciousness.
word to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody said a word to anybody. Everybody got that memo subliminally. It was like, okay, we gonna sit down.
Mm-hmm.
We gonna dance to boots on the ground with a pen in our hand. See, we gonna do us. Them do them.
And I keep telling people
See,
this. I'm like, listen, I get it because of recent this recent incident with the boycott, and the calling off and who did what and who was leading what, and there was a boycott already started, and then there was the Target fast, and then I saw people kind of getting discouraged and saying, man, see, this is why we can't have anything, and man, we're so disorganized, and man, we need a leader, and man, we need this, and man, and I had to come back and say, listen, black people, a leader is nice, but it ain't necessary.
hmm
A leader is nice, but it ain't necessary. If you're in tune spiritually, cosmically, genetically, melaninly, a leader is nice, but it ain't necessary. Because when black people as a collective sense danger, we start getting up and moving. Our history has
hmm
shown that. When black people see collectively that you're playing in our faces, we didn't need to call a meeting for that. The black collective conscious said, they got it. The black collective conscious said, you know what? They got it. I'm tired. The black collective conscious said, y'all done played in our face one too many times. The black collective conscious said, we tried to be kind. We tried to be nice. We tried to negotiate. We tried to share our heart with you. We tried to let you know that if this went down, you were not only just endangering us, you were endangering humankind. We tried all of that. We tried negotiations, we tried delegations, we tried conflict resolution. Black people tried it. And when we saw with our own two eyes that you were willing to destroy everything because you refused to see us as human, black people said, you got it. Because we know at the end of the day, we going to be all right.
hmm
That's what we know. Some of us don't know how we know, but at the end of the day, we know we going to be all right. At the end of the day, we know that as mitochondrial Eve, we going to be all right.
hmm
Now, as Martin Luther King said, I may not get there with you, but I've seen the promised land, right? So some of our elders know.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe a part of what we're seeing with so many of our elders shifting and transitioning, I believe they know we got it. They're like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I've done my part. My my part of the leg of the race is done. It is time for me to pass the baton and get up out of here. Cause we gonna be all right. I sincerely believe that. Um, and so there was a collective consciousness. Some people felt their ancestors. Some people felt their ancestors from the cellular place say, we see y'all. We see how hard you all have been working. We see the struggle. We see the seeds that you've been planting. We see the
Mm-hmm.
strides that you've been making. And we see them now trying to roll back all your progress. We see that it's above you now. It's above you now. Ain't much more that we can do in this physical plane to stop what's about to go down. You know, you want to, um, you want to you want to have that intervention. You want to stop what you see about to go down, but they're not listening. And so collectively we have said they don't want to listen, then we got to let them go through this experience and we're going to come out on the other side. But they don't want to listen to us. And I don't know about you, but um when you a parent of a child, and that's what black people are, we are the parent DNA.
Mm-hmm.
When you're the parent of a child that don't want to listen, that's hard-headed, you give them the instructions, they keep running around, bumping their head up against the wall, bumping their head up against the wall, bumping their head up against the wall. You tell them go this way, no, they're going, they determined.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a parent, sometimes you got to say, you know what? They're going to have to learn this lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be on the other side of the lesson as the parent, patching
Mm-hmm.
them up. And then we'd be saying, class, now what did we learn? That's what I feel like we are in right now. I feel like we're in a class what did we learn moment. And not
Right.
just and not just with white people, with everybody who thinks that black people shouldn't be respected. We're in a cosmic lesson right now. Because we didn't just warn them, we warned the Latino community too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in their cosmic lesson as well. They're in their cosmic lesson. And that's that. And as Dick Gregory would say, and that's what it's about. Dick Gregory would say, and that's what it's about, friends.
Mm-hmm.
People are in their cosmic lesson. And as much as we want to pull them out of it, we cannot. Because they made a choice. The
Mm-hmm.
wheel is in motion, and the only way that the wheel will be stopped is by a force outside of us. So, final thoughts.
Yep.
And if you're watching on Facebook, this is actually part 3. I have 2 more parts on this timeline, and Facebook keeps cutting us off, okay? Because we keep talking about stuff they don't want us to talk about. So this is actually part 3,
Mm-hmm.
and we're closing. Final thoughts.
We listen, all of us, man, woman, boy, girl, we all need to stand behind us. Because ain't nobody else coming. Nobody's coming to help us or save us. We got to do this on our own. And who's the strongest group among us? the women. Let's just say that like men are physically stronger, but when it comes to getting something done and standing in the heat and the fire, that's the black woman.
Mhm.
So we need to support them. Listen, I had to get on a guy yesterday attacking Angel Reese about her layups and everything, right? And I told him, I said, what you're not gonna do, you're not gonna insult Lisa Leslie, who worked with her on that, and she did improve greatly. I say, so say what you want to say, do what you want to do, but leave my black queens alone. You're just angry because she's doing a whole lot better than that other girl.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for offering your insights and joining me in conversation today. This has been another episode, a special edition for Women's History Month. We will be back with our regular podcast that is weekdays, Monday through Friday. We'll be back in April. Right now, we are only coming on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to share with you specific things regarding women's history and Women's History Month. I hope you've enjoyed this. Facebook made it extremely hard for me today to have one solid broadcast. So this is part 3. I encourage you to go back and watch part 1, which is more in depth, part 2, and then this final part. All of the parts will be listed and labeled shortly as we end our broadcast today. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. So continue to go out and be what?
Light.
Be light. Shout out to new followers that we've gained over the past 72 hours. Thank you for tuning in. I want to welcome you to this space. I am a real person. See, no 6 fingers. No 6 fingers. I'm a real person. See the naps up here? See the naps in my hair? See that? No AI, okay? I'm a real person.
All right, Robert.
See my hand coming over here rubbing my forehead? I'm a real person. All right. Thank you all for your time and attention. Take care, be well, and be light.